the Hyde Park Barracks renewal, we really wanted to undertake a project that was pushing the boundaries for Sydney Living Museums. We wanted to rethink what it's like to have an experience on a heritage listed site. What we were trying to do was to really push the limits. We were trying to break away from traditional museum experiences. So what's remarkable about this system is that the visitor is leading their own journey. So as they move throughout the spaces, they trigger content. You know, you're hearing the things that you're interested in. Early on in the project, we looked at what systems were available, and local projects identified Quuppa as the preferred locator system for what was going to be implemented at the barracks. That's been an incredible process as well, working with Quuppa and Gradient Technologies to develop a system that would have the accuracy that we required.
It's a matrix of locators that are set into the ceiling of different rooms that emit a low energy Bluetooth band. I think there's 12 sensors in each device, so you can get their location down to within a few hundred millimeters, depending on the level of sensitivity.
So since opening, we've had a lot of really positive feedback about the new experience on site, and that instills us with confidence. We're really pleased with the result that we've got, and that the technology is working the way it should, and that overall we've produced a high quality visitor experience at the barracks, something we can be really proud of.
It's been remarkably successful, and we've been very happy with that relationship, and very happy that Quuppa's been the technology that we chose to undertake this project.
It was very impressive. Originally, we had an idea to test it for 90 days. After 2 hours, we turned off the system because we knew exactly it can do what we need it to do. Nessa Solutions is a software company that has developed Insight Location Intelligence, and we have formed the company in 2014 with the idea to develop location intelligence. We're at Nicholas Children's Health System. This is the main campus. It's located in Miami, Florida. It's a 2.5 million square foot location. So Quuppa is a hardware and middleware supplier, as we look at it. In the value chain of where they are, they're a hardware that provides a dot. What we do is make that dot smart. That pretty much allows the hospital to know where everything is and to do workflows such as hand hygiene, crash cart management, baby abduction, knowledge of where assets are, you name it. As long as there's a dot on the map that's assigned to an asset, we pretty much know where it is. So what Quuppa is to us is they're the dot maker. They give us a coordinate, and we then take that coordinate, put it onto our map with business rules, and make a solution out of it. The level of accuracy is pretty much this. You don't find that else in the marketplace right now.
The ability to be able to understand where something is positioned, where a dot is located, with the accuracy that is provided through Quuppa and Nessa, have permitted us to develop incredibly important business rules. We can use it in hand hygiene, we can use it in crash carts, we can use it in asset management, we can follow people, patients, and locate them wherever they are in the hospital, and then quickly build business rules around them. It's a very dynamic system, and one that is easily manipulated to be able to provide that information to us.
We will always support Quuppa as the best dot maker, but that's our little secret. We don't want to tell anybody about it.
We're extremely excited to partner with NAGI to be the first YMCA in the world and the first facility in the United States to be able to offer this technology. It is a performance system that really charts total time, laps, as well as a safety system. So it does give recognition to swimmers that are in trouble, and it does have an alert system, and so we're extremely excited about that. You know, as a YMCA CEO, there are two things we really strive to create in our YMCA's. One is an interactive opportunity for people to stay healthy and active, and we think the Nagy pool system sure helps with motivating people and getting them over plateaus. The other thing is safety of our members, and we believe that with this Nagy interactive pool system that we can keep kids and adults safe in and around our pools. There are a lot of technologies out there that chart your steps and those types of things, but there is nothing that is able to be a partner with you in the water to create and track your fitness goals, your progression. As we've connected with Nagy, this has been a seamless process for really the management and the members. They had come in at night, had done all the work from when the Y closes until the Y opens. We did not have to shut down the pool. It was no interruption to our members. In fact, over the days, it created a lot of excitement of members wondering what it is and when it's going to come live. And so we're extremely excited now to be able to launch this system, to be able to support our members' wellness goals. I believe using technology to be able to help people reach their fitness goals is the way a lot of people look at in today's world. Nagy really has the most interactive pool technology in the entire world, and for us to be able to partner with this organization, to be able to not only motivate but track what people do in the water is going to be a tremendous opportunity for our existing members, and I think a real perk for our new members. Just allows us to be able to impact our members and our community in a whole new way. I do think otherwise should take a look at this. This has been a great experience, and we're really excited about what it's going to do to help our members reach their fitness goals and our kids to stay safer on water.
Based in Finland, we are currently about 50 odd people globally, and the history goes back to early 2000 when founders were worked in the Nokia Research Center, all PhDs, experts in physics and radio frequency technologies and indoor positioning. And then the team was charged with investigating any and all wireless technologies really that could solve the indoor positioning and tracking problems. And there were a few criteria that had to be met, like be globally available, flexible, cost-effective, and scalable. And after testing basically all the different technologies available back then, which were kind of Wi-Fi, RSSI, ultra-wideband, ultrasound, and of course Bluetooth. Then after conclusive testing, the technology choice was the Bluetooth, and particularly which was tested and further developed then was this angle of arrival principle and methodology, which I'll be describing more in the next slide. But it is important to highlight that as there are many BLE solutions based in Finland, we are currently about 50 odd people globally, and the history goes back to early 2000 when founders were worked in the Nokia Research Center, all PhDs, experts in physics and radio frequency technologies and indoor positioning. And then the team was charged with investigating any and all wireless technologies really that could solve the indoor positioning and tracking problems. And there were a few criteria that had to be met, like be globally available, flexible, cost-effective, and scalable. And after testing basically all the different technologies available back then, which were kind of Wi-Fi, RSSI, ultra-wideband, ultrasound, and of course Bluetooth. Then after conclusive testing, the technology choice was the Bluetooth, and particularly which was tested and further developed then was this angle of arrival principle and methodology, which I'll be describing more in the next slide. But it is important to highlight that as there are many BLE solutions that well covered in the past, and there are some fundamental differences to other BLE texts. technologies like RSSI. So then 2012, Microsoft bought Nokia, and founders saw a massive opportunity for the technology that they had been developing since 2005, and then spun out and founded independent company. And also 2012 was the year when the world saw the first product of the Quuppa technology. And we have offices in pretty much every continent. We have 160 business partners who have delivered about 2,000 and a bit more systems globally. And it's worth highlighting that the Quuppa is a technology provider and not really providing the end-to-end solutions. And those are the ones that we kind of leave for our partners to put together, and we, of course, with our help and support. So some highlights from the last couple of years on the bottom of the slide there. We have been included in the Gartner's Magic Quadrant yearly report for a few years now, and this year we even reached the visionary quadrant in the report, and being included in the report amongst the Hewlett Packard and Cisco, Ubisoft, Stanley, Health, and so on can be considered pretty much a nice achievement for a reasonably small company already, and now reaching the visionary quadrant really confirms that we are doing the right things and going in the right direction. Last year we also launched Quuppa Generation Q family, which has a kind of new hardware and subscription model, and then there were a few big wins in the partner base. One of them being the Vice Hockey that you saw the video at the beginning. It's a sport technology company that has won a couple of our major European hockey leagues, has about 50 different stadiums using Quuppa technology commercially. It's tracking the players and the puck in real time on ice, and really, we call it a bit of a kind of a calling card for our technology, because if you can do that on the ice real time, then the chances are that you can do a number of other use cases which are a bit less demanding. Earlier this year, we also launched this World Heritage Site here in Sydney, Hyde Park Barracks Museum, which using Quuppa technology as an underlying and a key enabler for the new kind of immersive visitor experience. I'll talk about the other stuff maybe later on in the presentation. If you go to the next slide, Mark. So yeah, this kind of shows the our concept and approach. So like mentioned at the beginning, that we are a bit different than most of the other BLE players in the market, where most of those solutions are based on the received signal strength indication, the RSSI, where you typically have a kind of battery-powered stationary beacons attached to the walls and maybe ceilings transmitting the signals, and then you have typically a mobile device that is measuring the strength of those signals and averaging them out and doing the trial iteration and different tricks of the trade. And that RSSI methodology typically puts the user and the asset in the certain areas and gives the proximate location. Whereas we also use the BLE, but the kind of a differentiator there is that we've been using this direction finding methodology and angle variable, and also been developing that very much within the company, and that kind of works a bit inversely to the RSSI beaconing, because we have the stationary locators and the moving tags that are then transmitting or beaconing. So if you think of the tag there in the center of the picture, then imagine that working in the kind of broadcast mode, moving and transmitting the data. Then the signals are picked up by the statically mounted locators, which in this case are kind of mounted on the ceiling. And the kind of simplified principle there is such that if you know the locators that are perpendicular to the tracking plane, can be also in the other way installed, but in this case it's perpendicular to the tracking plane. Then we can determine the elevation angle and azimuth angle of the signal when it hits the locator, which has like a 12 different antenna arrays. And then just using the kind of simple trigonometry and the Pythagorean theorem, you can calculate the exact position of the asset or the tag of the mobile device. So this is a very kind of strong simplification of the basics. There are, our team has studied the technology and science behind it for years, and it's been a subject of many doctoral theses of our team members also. But this kind of gives you the idea, and hopefully it gives you also the understanding of how we differ from the typical BLE technology, mainly the RSSI. Maybe if you go to the next slide, Mark. So, yeah, thanks. And Quuppa has always been a kind of staunch advocate of open standards, and our members, team members, were contributing to the standards already prior to the RTLS activities. And now the direction-finding methodologies and methods are included in this 5.1 standard. And when it was announced, there was one company and one company only mentioned in the document that was actually Quuppa. And this is because of the fact that our team has been developing, using, and improving the AoA direction-finding technology for the last 15 years or so. And the technology is very mature and being proven by those thousands of customer deployments. And this is largely due to Quuppa's pioneering work. And we see this as a kind of wonderful acknowledgement of our work and the direction we chose years ago. So, yeah, there are naturally a number of other products in the market, and thanks, Mark. So, yeah, kind of point of comparison is shown on this slide, and like any good sales charts, we are all green and others are not so much, but it is pretty fair representation and actually put together by some analysts initially, which kind of shows their RSS-based technologies on the right side of the slide. That would probably refer as a kind of proximity solutions, and the ultra-wideband has historically always been the kind of golden standard for indoor positioning with the accuracy and the real-time capability. And it definitely has its place and considerations, but also some of the shortcomings, mainly the power consumption and also the kind of complexity of the backend setup and the related maintenance. Whereas the BLE and angle for arrival is the choice that we have taken at that time, and we feel that that's a great choice as we don't really have those restrictions. The battery consumption is really minor in comparison, meaning that the battery and the size of the tag can be smaller and the price is smaller, and they can be used in a much more versatile applications. And then when it comes to the setup and the maintenance of the system, it's very much like a set and forget. So once it's deployed, you don't really need to worry about it, and it's just ticking along on its own. So these are some of the reasons why.
Yeah, and certainly one of the things, the reason that we've shown such interest in this technology, is BLE 5.1, an angle of arrival. It's actually giving us a much better location accuracy. Now, for most of you on the call, you'll know that we've been working in the Wi-Fi space, in the RTLS space and the Wi-Fi space for the last 8 years. We have seen, and I've personally seen, the requirement change from a customer perspective, certainly over the last 2 to 3 years. And in my travels overseas, what I've seen a lot of organizations moving towards BLE as opposed to using Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is moving to a dedicated data structure, and the BLE is now being used more and more in organizations, across the globe for locations. So.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. So yeah, it is very much the Bluetooth, this kind of ubiquitous technology, more and more prevalent in all the different devices, and something that we also believe in. So yeah, this slide shows the kind of overall system components and the architecture. It's a kind of very straightforward setup. So our part is basically us, the kind of hardware components, and we chose on the left hand side the locators, which have those multiple antenna arrays that are then detecting the signals from the tags or mobile devices down below. We basically provide a kind of two different locator types. The kind of square one there, the lower one, is the IP-rated long range locator with a range of 300 meters that can very accurately detect the location 150 meters above the tracking plane. So it's a very sensitive locator. And then the indoor locator is the kind of round one there that has it's somewhat lower reading range. And they are basically hardwired using the CAT cable to the Quuppa positioning engine, using this kind of power over the Ethernet network, so that that then provides both the power and the connectivity to the locators. And then the Quuppa position engine is the heart of the system, and then provides the open APIs to the applications that our partners and customers then develop themselves using the info that is coming from the stuff. Okay, so let's race through. We go to the next slide, and as mentioned that we believe in the Bluetooth standards and the open standards and ecosystems and like open APIs, and we also have the open tag ecosystem. We are never able to provide all the different tags that our partners and customers require. We do provide one reference tag, which is the one there on the left-hand side, being held by the person's hand. It's got a push button and the LED, and you can have a kind of two-way communication with the tag, like you can do with the number of other tags and partners that's provided our partners. So we have about 12 or so tag partners who can provide all different form factors and the features and the use cases, whether they are disposable, screw it on or wear it on your wrist or around your neck. That the batteries can be replaceable or rechargeable or what have you. So that's a one advantage of the open ecosystem, that anybody can basically build the tag that can work with our technology. And then the mobile devices can be made trackable also, as shown there. Some of the kind of, in addition to the hardware components, we provide the different software and tools. So they like mentioned, the Quuppa positioning engine is the heart and soul of the system, and it basically receives the data from all the locators, runs it through the advanced positioning algorithms and offers, and then it enables sort of seamless integration with other systems through the standard APIs. In very big system, it also aggregates the data from multiple QPs into one single API if needed. The QSP, Quuppa Site Planner, is a comprehensive software used for planning and deploying and configuring the system. It has different tools and wizards that make it easy to estimate the locator coverage and determine the locator coordinates and orientations and so forth, and then also used to configure the zones and tags and what is for instance the behavior of the tags in those zones. The QSS, the site simulator, is what I like to call kind of virtual traffic generator. So it creates the virtual Quuppa system, or you can create a virtual Quuppa system using that site simulator, and that enables then the development and testing of the application and system components and interfaces even before you carry any physical implementation. So you can basically, before the building is even built, if you have the blueprints, you can pretty much test your system even before you start deploying the locators and the interface infrastructure. And the Quuppa data player is the tool that then can be used to evaluate the system performance, as well as presenting and analyzing the tracking results. It enables both kind of real-time viewing and recording and replaying of the data, and creates all kind of heat maps and statistics and trajectories and tables for analyzing the data in more effective way. And it can also be used to kind of record the session. For instance, if you see some anomalies or problems with the solution, you can record it, send it to us, and we can analyze it and try to help you solving the problems if there are any. So in short, we provide a very comprehensive and very mature software tools. These are some of the 4 pillars in what we believe in. Maybe you go straight to the next slide, Mark. So just one quick note on this kind of scalability side is that not all the accuracy requirements are the same, and we have put these into 3 categories here. So the kind of high accuracy, sub 1 meter or all the way down to the 10 centimeter accuracy is the kind of area where we shine and where we bring the kind of unique value very effectively. But we can then also solve this other proximity and presence detection use cases if needed, if that accuracy is not required, or if you just need to have like on the presence detection the inventory or the kind of access control. If you have the locators around the door, then you can just do the access control using just a couple of locators. But then once you are in the room, then you don't necessarily know whereabouts you are. You just know that you are in the kind of a room. You get the room level accuracy. Maybe next slide, Mark. So yeah, like mentioned before, the Quuppa is a technology provider, and we are not providing the end customer solutions, and we then rely on the partnership network to really do this. So we have the tag partners, infrastructure partners, system integrators, and the software providers then who can take our sort of a smart dot on the map and then take that into their system, maybe with some other sensor data that we can deliver, and then build those smart, cool applications that solve the problems of the customer.
Yeah, just to add to that, you know, and I guess to make sure that everybody's crystal clear on you know, where Quuppa sits, you know, in the market and what they provide. So Quuppa is basically providing the infrastructure piece, and then Quuppa we're working with third-party software developers, one of which you're going to hear from today, which is the guys from NESA. But a lot of the technology, a lot of the solutions that we talk about are, you know, Quuppa is actually providing the infrastructure level of it. And then we're working with both Quuppa in relation to, you know, tags, but we also have other tags that can work on the Quuppa system. And then we obviously have software at the front end side that, depending upon the type of use case that you're looking for, whether it be, you know, you want to track tools around a warehouse, you want to be able to track patients around a facility, you want to be able to track you know, a shopping trolley or a shopping cart, or people, you know, in a shopping center. You know, you might be in a you know, warehouse type situation. You want to be able to track where, you know, a pallet is or a forklift is, if you want to actually do collision avoidance as an example. You know, there's an array of different technology of front end software providers, and we work with all of them, and they work on the Quuppa infrastructure. Or you may want to, in this example, you may want to track an ice hockey puck and ice hockey players around an ice hockey field. You know, so again, you know, there's a whole bunch of different use cases for that.
Right. Yeah. So this is where maybe it's coming back as a kind of echoing myself. But yeah, I guess yeah, this is one good use case to go through very briefly. But yeah, it's just not really that common one, I guess, not at least in Australia, the ice hockey, and we are not really hanging our hat on that one, or even in the sport vertical in general. But it is a, you know, very good calling card if you can track the players and puck real time on the ice, where the puck kind of goes like 150 kilometers per hour. Then the chances are that you can succeed in a bit less demanding environment. So yeah, this solution is being used in the Finnish league and another European cross-continental league, and really it delivers number of use cases. Some of them shown there on the slide, and that there are also many users for the data, whether that's the teams for the training and coaching purposes, or fans and TV content right owners that use the data to make the game more engaging and visual and entertaining. And then also that the betting companies are currently looking at how to use the data in their applications to build more kind of products and support their business model. So maybe just use this opportunity briefly to highlight one cool, unique capability with Quuppa, which is that the tags can be really dynamically programmed to behave differently based on their location or movement. So, for instance, the transmission rate and the power can be dynamically set based on the rules and zones. So, for instance, in this case, the players, when they're on the ice, tags are transmitting 25% per second, and the puck is chirping like 50 hertz. But then when the players are on the bench or in the penalty box, the frequency is lower, and when the tag leaves the rink area, it goes to the kind of hibernation mode altogether. And that life can be, you know, anywhere between 3 to 5 years. Whereas if it was chirping that 25 or 50 hertz constantly, the battery would be flat in a month or so. So yeah, it's kind of very, very useful feature when you regardless of the vertical where you are. So you can base the behavior of the tag and the transmission rate based on its location and whether it's moving and where it's moving and what's the time of the day, or you know, the weather of the day, or whatever you want to include into the picture.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Thanks, Jukka. And that's one of the things that we really like about it. You know, we basically we decided we put this Quuppa system in our own internal office. As I mentioned before, we've been using Wi-Fi RTLS for a long period of time. We can now take a tag and we can actually roll a tag from one end of the office to the other, and that we see that tag tracking at that speed by rolling it. You know, you imagine rolling a marble down a hallway. That's exactly what we do with the tags, and it's got perfect accuracy. Hey, listen, thanks so much, Jukka, for actually running through that. I guess what I'd like to do now, we've got a few questions, and we'll leave the questions to the end, and we'll answer them on the
and carrots in a prison.
it really comes down to the same thing. They're looking for that dot on the map, and they're looking to utilize that information to give a level of business layer, a clarity. It gives this visualization that allows them to pretty much do anything. The beauty of working with Quuppa is that it gives you this level of accuracy down to here. And when you have accuracy down to here, it's not about being in a room or being in a zone or being in an area. It's about what do you want to do if you move a left or you move right. And that gives a user the ability to really and truly do something with location. And additionally to that, as it has evolved, we started out with Quuppa when it was Bluetooth 4.0, and now it's at a 5.1, and it's evolving very rapidly. We're able to now take sensor data. We're able to take a lot of other IoT data or data streams that are coming in and actually utilize that as a meshed play. And that makes it even more complex. So you've got this global visualization of your solution and what you want to achieve. And you could just decide what inbounding data you really want. Go ahead. So the way I sort of look at it in the simplest way is you got location, and it could be BLE, ultra wideband, Wi-Fi. We always say, and our truth is that by far the best dot on the map right now these days is Quuppa, and it's been that for the last decade pretty much. Being able to take IoT data sensor is really essential. Having everything in the cloud is really important because it's scalable. You're not stuck in any level, but it's the actions. What do you want to do with the data? And what Nessa has done is we've built out a pretty simplistic, used, dynamic workflow engine that allows you to basically decide what happens if you go this way, what happens if you want to go that way, and many more obviously things. But the point on it is that you want to get a value of the dot. You could go to the next slide, please. So from our perspective, we focused originally in healthcare. Healthcare was a big medium for us in the United States. Probably the biggest adoption in RTLS technology has been healthcare, be it baby abduction, be it hand hygiene, be it staff tracking, asset tracking. And so we saw healthcare as a really high level business. And pretty much a lot of other industries below it trickle down. What we found over a period of time actually was that you could call it baby abduction, you could call it asset management, you could call it tracking. And in any business, it's the same processes, just named differently. So Nessa really focused on building this ubiquitous platform where you could, as the user, define what you want to call your things, as we would say, and what the value of the dot of the map is. And what you see in this screen is that we build stuff like geofencing. If somebody walks into a room, change the color of the screen, notify somebody, look at the IoT data sensor. To us, it's really about what you want to do within that room. And the good thing about our application and working with Quuppa is that you could have 15 different business rules for the same room with 15 different tags. So you could go from a whole wide or down to the individual, as we would say. You could go to the next one. We've also built out surveys. So because we have location, we have this map, and we have this information about it, we also do digital surveys where if you want to validate that somebody came in, we could use location. It validates that that person came in, and it will populate on your device a survey or a workflow and so forth like that. So we recognize that it's not only about a dot moving around, it's about actions and outcomes. You could go to the next one, please. So where Nessa really focuses on and where we've been really successful with it is really our workflow, our dynamic workflow engine. We recognize it was really cool to watch a dot move around, and you could throw it against the wall, and you could see all these different things, but it didn't bring value. And so what we recognize is that it doesn't make a difference that somebody walks in the room. It's if somebody walked in the room and did this or did that, and then did this and did that. So we built out a rules engine that allows anybody to build any condition and action. And a condition is pretty much what you want it to occur when it comes in. So when a dot comes in, when a dot is close to each other, i.e. contact tracing, when a dot exits, when a dot is beside 10 other things, when a dot has IoT data and there's more than 5 people in a room, then automatically you could build rules. But what happens when people leave? What happens when people come? And so you have to make the application as dynamic and simple as possible. And so we actually built this based on our hand hygiene process, because there was actually 19 scenarios of a care provider walking in to wash your hands with a patient in the room or not in the room. And we recognized that we could use this platform pretty much anything. The additional thing is building conditions and actions. The action part is, what do you want to do with that information? So when somebody comes into my office, as an example, I get a text message, it turns on a camera, it sends an API out. These are the kind of things that you need to be able to do, because that's where it drives your ROI. And when you want to really invest in a platform like this, it's not a one-time deal, it's a long-term commitment. And you have the ability to be dynamically changing around things, moving things around, pretty much constantly editing and focusing on that data, because it doesn't happen the first time. You don't deploy the first time and you get it right. You deploy, you recognize, you learn from it, and you make those changes. You could go to the next one, please. So, healthcare, as we basically say, is, patient and protection, asset tracking, staff tracking, baby abduction. That's pretty much standard in pretty much every industry, healthcare from baby abduction wise. But what we saw actually was that contact tracing, because of COVID, became really, really valuable. So 2 dots moving around, Halo comes, we log the event and so forth like that. Well, we recognized that application was basically baby abduction, because we built that same philosophy. So we've actually built out our application that allows us to do a lot more utilizing the contact tracing approach. Because contact tracing, really, if you flip it, is clash detection. It's quantity of people, it's time, who, what, where, when, and how. And that's really where we recognized that our platform allowed us to build contact tracing in around 4 hours. Additionally to that, going to COVID as an example and what's going on here, specifically in Miami. Miami was like the world leader in COVID because we want to win at everything. We won the basketball game 5 minutes ago, so I'm happy about that. We recognize the value of what we've been preaching. We've been in this location space for 10 years, and now all of a sudden people want to know exactly where people are. So you have to have the tools, i.e. the tracking technology, the software, the outcome, the reporting, to give you that information. And that's what pretty much we did. And we deployed it in various different industries over a period of the last 3 months. You go to the next slide, please. So perfect example, an agro carrot farm, 5 million square feet. They tracked all of their staff in multiple zones. Interesting enough, I just traveled to California and went to do a site visit on it. What was really amazing is the one thing that we learned out of it is that the staff don't talk with each other anymore. They actually do their work in their own zones, and their productivity went up 40%. Maybe contact tracing ended up being a very value to the company because it changed the way that they did their workflows and associated to it. But what we did in this situation is if somebody came in within 6 feet, within 2 seconds, the badge would buzz and it would log a reporting event, where you could see on the next slide. And from that reporting event, people got very, very involved and to know their stats. Am I doing it right? Am I low? Am I high? Who am I contacting with? And that's the beauty of utilizing location. You can't do that in a non-BLE AoA space. Other BLE technology that does RSSI, signal strength, how much strength is between, doesn't give you that level of proximity, whereas a Quuppa solution does. It gives you that pinpoint accuracy. You could go to the next slide, please. So pretty much what we learned in 10 years is, and the best way we say it is, tracking technology now, today, allows us to know exactly where things are. But you got to drive the why you're doing it, what you're doing it for, what's the value proposition. And in any industry, you're going to gain value, but it's the actions and the conditions of those data points that you're getting that you need to really focus on. So part of any deployment is professional services. You're going to need to work within technology to understand what you want to do, how you want to achieve it, and drive it, because technology by itself doesn't do anything. It's the processes and the people that put it together and the outcomes that you develop. And you know, we've been working with Mark for I believe I met Mark 4 years ago at an event in Orlando. We've always stayed in touch. And, since NESA started to deploy, partnerships, we always looked at them as the de facto Australia, New Zealand partners. And we're very proud to be here. But I will say this to end the conversation. Location is actually very easy. Deploying the technology is simple. Tuning the technology is simple. Deploying the software is simple. What is important is the processes and why you're doing it. So thank you very much. And any questions, I'm here, obviously. Thank you.
Excellent, thanks, Neil. That's great. Now, I do want to thank both of our presenters and speakers this morning. I also do want to encourage you, if you do have any other questions, there is a question that came in, and I want to address it whilst we're on the call. So the question was, has any commercial analysis been done on Quuppa versus current Wi-Fi offerings? And what I can tell you from our perspective, I mean, as you know, most of you know, we've been in this space for the last 8 years. When we look at the comparisons between, as I mentioned earlier on, looking at deploying a VoIP network as opposed to an RTLS grade, and being able to actually put beacons in, is going to actually give you a lot more cost-effective solution. The other part to it is that the BLE tags are a lot more cost-effective. So when you're actually looking at deploying, 1,000 tags or 5,000 tags or 10,000 tags, the cost of those tags is substantially lower. The management of the tags, again, you're going to get a 5-year battery, 3 to 5 year battery life out of the tags. So there's a lot more variety when it comes to looking at BLE tags as well. So certainly, happy to have those discussions. Happy to take that offline as well if you've got questions and you want feedback in relation to a particular project. We can do some comparisons between, a Wi-Fi infrastructure versus a Wi-Fi hybrid BLE, or alternatively, leave the Wi-Fi to do the data and let the BLE do the location. So, again, more than happy to have those conversations.
And Mark, if I could just jump in, you have to look at most location technologies as mission critical. And when you're utilizing it on a Wi-Fi network, you're taking a substantial amount of bandwidth. And by adding substantial amount of tags in the environment, it does cause drain. And it doesn't provide you the clarity and the granularity that you need. You got to look at when you're installing an infrastructure, you're not installing it for 1 year, you're installing it for several years. We've had Quuppa installed since 2012, and we've never touched the application or the system. And it's been running in mission critical environments. So you have to think logistically of how you want to do your deployments, but it is completely a very different philosophy than utilizing a Wi-Fi hybrid application. It allows you to truly have your own secured network where it gives you a lot of information, and it does not pull a lot of data through your total overall infrastructure, but it does absolutely bring a substantial amount of value from a longevity perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, excuse me. And one of the things that we wanted to do whilst we're on this call is we wanted to let those that are on the call know that, one of the things that we'd love you to do is we'd love you to actually try it. We'd love you to see what the Quuppa technology is and how it works in an environment, in your environment. Like I said, whether you're in aged care, hospital, retail, warehousing. There's a bunch of people from in the corporate office space environment, because they're looking at putting it or creating a smart building. You create a smart building with using this type of technology, and all of a sudden you're creating an opportunity for those tenants that are going to move into your facility, that you can provide them with location technology whilst they move in. So again, there is a development kit if you wanted to have a look, if you wanted to have a play yourselves. And trial it yourself. This is what we would encourage you to do. That's really all we really wanted to cover. We've got about 7 minutes left. So if there are any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat window. I know the guys would be more than happy to answer them for you. Alternatively, you can get in contact with my team, Vanessa, Brandon, Mary, Sherwin, myself, or you can reach out to NESA or Quuppa yourselves. And we'd like the opportunity, when it comes to, we talked about the commercial side of it, very happy to actually have some discussions around that. Let's, and if you wanted to, let's do a comparison between what is a Wi-Fi RTLS grade Wi-Fi network look like, as opposed to a Wi-Fi plus a BLE network to do your location accuracy or your location tracking. So again, very, very versatile. We're happy to look at working with you in relation to projects that you've got on. And if you're curious, this is technology that, we're serious about this technology. As I mentioned before, and I've mentioned a few times, we've been doing this stuff for 8 years, and we've seen that the requirement that we're seeing from customers now is different than the requirement that we had 8 years ago. The technology is different now than the technology that has been out for the last 8 years. Back in the day, we were talking, with customers in relation to IR. IR doesn't give you the location accuracy that we want, and this is where the BLEs come in. Now, there's two different types of BLE, keep in mind, right? I mean, you've got BLE that comes out of the access points that most of the vendors have got. They've got some sort of BLE in there, and then you've got AoA, so angle of arrival on 5.1. And if you look at, the Quuppa technology has been around for a long, long time. They've been using the same technology for a long, long time, and the industry is following where Quuppa is going or has gone. So, like I said, if you've got any other questions, someone's asked if we can share some video links. Absolutely, more than happy to do that. More than happy to give you some case studies from use cases. If you've got a unique use case, let us know. Let's talk about it. Let's understand what it is you're looking to try and achieve, and whether Quuppa is the right solution for you. We'll tell you if we think that you're better off with a Wi-Fi infrastructure. We'll tell you. If we think you're better off with the BLE infrastructure, we'll tell you. We're all about what is the outcome that you're trying to achieve, and we'll help you in getting there along with our channel partners. So at the moment, there's no other questions. So I'm going to say thank you very much for attending. It's been a great session, Neil and Yuka, and we look forward to working with you guys in the future around Quuppa and NESA and other partners. Thanks so much.